You don't like it. You don't like it. I'm serious. You don't like it. It's a good day. It's a good day for cannabis in the Caribbean.
I know you use those things to make like the regular cookies.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's the same. With my family recipe, I'm going to tell you in a minute. But everything's the same. The only thing that changes.
Yo te sé usted aquí, la pareja.
Otro de ese más. No puede estar bien. No muerto, ¿eh?
Eso es lo que estábamos hablando ahora mismo, con un paleta pero la de CBD. Se lo puede hacer de CBD porque
¿Por qué no? ¿Por qué no?
sí.
Más que...
Y no lo anuncia afuera, eso no tiene un sticker ahí, lo pone. Un anuncio.
Ya que necesite.
Y si pregunta, es CBD.
Directamente a los dispensarios con la medición. Entonces te hablan por teléfono porque casi nosotros tomamos muchos órdenes así. Te hablan por teléfono para usar. Tienes que tener... Ahí ya no necesitas nada. Pero al principio sí.
Tony, did you get that page on the in-stock trading?
No.
I thought I sent that.
No.
I'm gonna have to send it to you. I'll send it to you. It was just a page. Did I give you a sheet on that? No. Let me go get one. I got one in my car.
Okay. How many Christmas do you got? I think there's about 25.
Por eso necesitamos otra vez otros dosis. No nos decimos, es que necesitamos checar las cosas.
¿Están frías?
Yes.
Bien, gente, familia, buenos días, saludos, buenas tardes, buenas noches. How you doing? Very good, very good. Welcome to today's cooking class. Bien, voy a hablar en español. Vamos a hacer una receta de coquito canábico. Coquito canábico es nuestra estampa caribeña, puertorriqueña, de lo que se puede comparar en Estados Unidos con aquello que se llama eggnog. Nosotros tenemos una y yo creo que todo el Caribe tiene su propia, porque nuestros hermanos dominicanos también, en Cuba yo sé que también tienen otra versión. Entonces, voy a enseñarles cómo hacer coquito canábico, pero con un twist, porque este coquito canábico es un coquito canábico, o sea, es un coquito, pero con cannabis fusionado. Y esa palabra va a surgir mucho durante esta presentación. Aquí hay sofrito, aquí hay jalea, y aquí hay esto que es un adobo para carne, para pollo, etcétera. Si son vegetarianos, también para los vegetales. Y tiene delta 8. Este es el que no tiene delta 8, que es de la planta como tal, que tiene THC 9. Esto que estamos haciendo aquí es ya un proceso adelantado con la intención de que cuando yo hago este coquito, cuando yo hago coquito en casa, el proceso coge 3 horas. ¿Y el por qué? Es la extracción. Es importante la extracción. Aquí tengo un ejemplo de lo que es hemp o cáñamo, que es la prima o la prima hermana de marihuana, la prima hermana planta de marihuana, que es legal en todos los Estados Unidos y creo que en el mundo, no estoy 100% seguro si en todo el mundo, pero por lo menos en Puerto Rico es legal el cáñamo. ¡Saludos!
Hola.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How you?
Very good, very good. Thank you for coming.
Hey.
¿Cómo está tu español? Ok, ya me contestaste.
Pero
Okay, how do you spell?
It's already finished, I got the answer. I'm gonna be Spanish. ¿Cómo está todo el mundo con el inglés, con el español? ¿Podemos hacer el Spanish? Okay, we'll do it in Spanish. We'll do it in Spanish. So,
Gracias.
next time they ask you that question, you go, sí, you answer the question. You don't have to go too deep into this.
Well, I don't mind, I'm not afraid of not knowing.
No, and I'm glad that you're here because we want to share this with you. And hopefully you can take it home and do it on your own, do it yourself. My name is Raul Morris. I'm a graphic design professor. I'm also a performer, an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a poet. And here's what we're doing. We're doing coquito. Coquito is a staple in our Christmas. It's like the eggnog version, but it's made from coconuts. It's called coquito.
Cool.
This coquito is going to be infused with cannabis. This one is infused already. But this one that I'm doing here, we're using CBD or hemp without THC 9. These products are here, por cierto, esto es una presentación por primera vez en la historia, aunque ya la hicimos en Chicago, pero nadie ha hecho un sofrito. No one's ever done sofrito in the whole cannabis world. So this menu of different recipes that I bring, sofrito and adobo, and although this is done, but this is homemade. Jalea, which is jalea is jelly. Jam is the right word. Jam is the right word. I also do sangria, and I do flans, and I do bizcochos, and I do galletas. I do all that stuff. I've been doing it. I'm considered Puerto Rico's cannabis chef,
Cool.
and I'm very proud of that. And it's actually taken me a while to work out some of these recipes. It isn't that simple because there are several strategies that are used to create all of these, old recipes. This was probably one of the easiest ones, although it took me a while to get it. And things like sofrito are really, I'm looking for the presentations, things like sofrito are really not that simple to infuse. So,
Eso es lo que está haciendo mantequilla.
Yeah, that's the butter, or
¿ese soy yo o esa otra persona? No estoy seguro quién es. No
Yo
creo que sea
tampoco,
yo.
I don't know, your
skimming
hand
butter,
is smaller.
or is that butter maybe?
Ghee.
It's ghee?
If it's ghee,
Ghee? It looks like
Or it
ghee,
could
but
be
I'm not
butter,
sure.
or
Yeah.
it could be yogurt too.
Or yogurt.
Yeah.
You're right.
I put on my channel. Why is this lady on here?
Oh, man, you're trying to knock you out.
She was the opening act.
Yeah. It was nice. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. There we go. So,
I was wondering if you, because I mean, your hands didn't look very manly, you know.
yeah.
So
I can pull it off.
you
Well,
were
you
talking
should
and
have
you
put
were
the act-
watching and we're like, what is that?
Who is this guy? Who is it? Anyway, so I do this different products, and they're all for sale because that's how we're gonna fund the rest of this project. We've been presenting the book. The book is called Alchemy of Cannabis Sofrito. It's not in English. It's in Spanish, and it has 10 recipes on the Caribbean. There's taquitos, there's octopus, there's the sangria is in here, the coquitos in here, and 7 other recipes. And it's also very informative because part of what we're doing is educating the public. We want the base to get bigger. We want more people to see this as an option because the more people, the more documentation, the more people understand it. The stigma for like the last, 70 years of persecution, particularly certain communities. So this is a great book I recommend to everyone. It's called High Price. He's a neurosurgeon, and he teaches in one of New York's universities. He's been doing, Columbia University, he's been doing writing on how drugs have been used to persecute specific communities. and how it's been all propaganda. So even when, you know, this is your brain on drugs, all of that was part of a big
Campaign.
yeah, big campaign to persecute. Even before that, when we talk about Nixon, we know that he created the Department of Drugs, particularly to chase the hippies, the black community, and the Latino community, which were the ones who were protesting against
He banned the LSD
The Vietnam War.
the Vietnam
on
War.
October 24 of 1966.
Yeah.
That's when the
He
lawyers
can
started.
remember from way
Yeah, it's a big thing because we're going to look back now with science and go, wait a minute, we've been chasing and putting in jail. Most of the people in jail right now, 80% of those people are in there for something that has to do with or cannabis or some sort of illegal drug, and it's all mounted on bullshit.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's all hurt a lot of communities. It's all tracked and
70 years, I think it's
marginalized and yeah, and then that are generations.
My
have
dad
suffered.
used to talk about that exactly all the time, like it was banned because also oil companies were, I mean, with
Yeah,
cáñamo,
Right.
you can do anything from
Still today,
paint
yeah.
to ropes to clothes to, I mean, you can build a
Like
house
that's the
out of
they
it.
say Ford
Exactly. You
had a
can
car
really
all
exactly.
built with cáñamo,
You can
with
totally
hemp.
do it.
Yeah.
So the industry of like oil industry, of course, all the
Plastic.
waste, all the plastic and textiles.
Incredible. Look at where we are, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
This is already going, it's been going for the last hour. Usually when I do my coquito, it takes me about 3 to 4 hours. So what's already in here?
You're missing the cannabis.
This coquito recipe is pretty much traditional. Every family has a coquito recipe. So my family and maybe Tony's family, maybe Rosa's family have different coquito recipes. And what we do in Christmas is I think with the same thing would happen with eggnog. You make a batch and you take it to your neighbor. I love you very much. Thank you for being my neighbor or your cousin or your aunt. So we do this. We've been doing this for like 100 and some odd years. Coquito's very old, the recipe como tal. So leche condensada or leche evaporada, evaporated milk. This is coconut cream. This is coconut milk. I haven't added this yet, which is a big time sweetener. It's condensed milk. We use, you probably have some over there,
Pitojo.
pitorro, which is,
Moonshine.
it's moonshine. It's our local moonshine.
No.
And it's still, you can still get it today.
Huh.
As a matter of fact, for Christmas, you can ask someone for moonshine or Puerto Rican moonshine, and you'll get a bottle of stuff that's probably in the middle of the mountain somewhere, like they do up there. The same
Sure.
hillbillies, we got hillbillies here
Sure.
doing exactly the same thing. So we usually use moonshine from Puerto Rico, but I use 151. This one's got 151, but I brought some whiskey. Whiskey, I've had some whiskey in my, when I do my sangria, also has whiskey and it's pretty good. I already added a splash of this. I usually don't,
Raul, you need some pitojo, I got pitojo
why
there.
don't you bring me some? I can do that. I can wait. Yeah, that's live, by the way. We're live, I didn't say that, but we're live on Instagram and we're live on Facebook. Yeah, and I want some pitojo. So, I just put a splash on this. So I put one of this. I'm going to add another one of this. Makes it creamier. This is evaporated milk.
The evaporated milk is the whole container.
The whole container. I put 2 of these evaporated milks. I put one cream, coconut cream. I put 1 coconut milk. I'm going to put maybe a little bit less than half, maybe a quarter of this, because this is really sweet. This is all sugar right here. And I'm going to add a splash of this. Probably half of what you see, maybe a little less.
Oh,
Because you want to balance. You want to balance. You
You're
don't
not
want,
gonna use the pitorro?
no, that's for me to drink. That's for me to, oh yeah, this, I was serious about that. So
You put any eggs in there?
I do not. You do not. You know what? Some recipes add the egg to make
I
it
want to take a shot
frothier.
first.
To make it
That's what he
frothier.
wants, a shot.
I don't use it,
No,
and
for
I
me.
find it
He doesn't want to put
that
it in there.
Oh, he's not?
it lasts longer too, because with the egg, it's a little more open to spoiling. So
Yeah.
people use it for frothing, so it's a little more, mild.
Thicker.
And then you use only the yolks, so you have a lot of
Yeah.
whites to do all kinds of merengues.
Yeah.
After my mother used to do rompope, and it was like,
A lot of people use the whites
yeah.
too.
We couldn't have any more
You put
whites,
the whole egg in there.
Whites too.
but I can make
The
them.
whole egg in there?
Just toss the whole egg in there.
Yeah.
Yep, and put it in the
Hay que
blender.
separarlo los huevos, el blanco
Okay.
y el amarillo y
¿Y qué se tira, el amarillo o el blanco?
los dos, tú los separas los dos
Okay.
y los partes
¿Quién
los
quiere
dos
pitojo?
primero.
Y entonces
Okay,
le
Los
das
partes los dos.
You want a shot pitojo?
What is it?
Moonshine.
Por
Oh, yeah,
separado
I'll take
los
a
dos.
shot.
Oh, okay, there's a dog in here.
It's
What's
moonshine.
it made?
All right.
Con cane, sugar cane.
From sugar cane.
Yay! Bienvenida! Good to see you!
Sorry, I got stuck because I was talking to the neighbors. They wanted to talk to the new dog, actually, not me.
Candela,
Okay.
good to see you, darling. Want to sit over here?
Yeah, I'm gonna come up in the front.
I added
What's
one
up, mommy?
clove, just one,
Thank you, sir.
and I put some canela or
Man.
cinnamon. I put half a stick. I usually use a whole stick because I make big batches.
Boy, that'll clear your nasal cavity.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for Christmas. Always, you go to someone's house, to Boricua house, and you go, yeah, we got some.
Okay.
Let me ask you, when you put that in there, do you put it in when it's hot? Would the
Okay.
alcohol evaporate?
Run.
Yeah, it will. It will. I usually let it cool
Sit down
down.
right here, Jan.
So it's not, like right now, it's on high because I'm rushing because it's a class.
Okay.
But I'll usually leave it on low for 3-4 hours. And at the end, I turn it off, I let it cool down, and then I'll add the alcohol.
Baby.
It's a good question because it'll evaporate. I'm usually using 151 or something strong so it'll have enough of a kick.
Okay.
I don't want it to compete with the cannabis high.
Oh.
I want you to have a balanced feeling,
my God.
Let me talk about a little bit about strains. This is hemp. I said this was hemp, but when I use strains from my coquito, as in this one, I try the best I can to get all the information
Pitojo?
of what kind of weed it is,
Pitojo.
what strain it is. Why? Because it's going to tell me how much THC, CBD it has, and it's also going to give me an idea of the terpenes, which give the flavor and the scent of the cannabis. Not all cannabis is the same. This is true now more than ever. In Puerto Rico, we have over 4,000 strains. Each strain has its own makeup when it comes to its flavor and when it comes to its scent. And it's called terpenes, and it gives you that flavor. But on top of that, you got how much THC, how much CBD, how many other cannabinoids. Cannabis has, right now, they're talking about over 400 cannabinoids. And what are cannabinoids? Every single species, except for plants, has a cannabinoid system, endocannabinoid system. We have this to be able to communicate with our cells. CBD, CB1 and CB2 are, CB1 is for communication with the brain, and CB2 is all the other organs and all the other muscles and all the other cells in the rest of the body. So we didn't know this until just a few years ago, actually about a decade ago, from this guy called Robert Mulcham. He's an Israeli investigator, doctor, who found this system called endocannabinoid in all of animals, including ourselves. And eventually, he was also responsible because he isolated cannabinoids inside marijuana. And he was able to identify 1 and 2 that we know very well, THC, which is the one that gets you high, and CBD, that it's supposed to be a repairing, it's supposed to relax you, and it's also a repairing cannabinoid. So the THC, for example, is when it comes to things like cancer, it's supposed to kill cancer, the THC, It doesn't work for everyone, I can tell you that. There's a lot of people that say that have been cured with something called Rincon oil, which is a concentrated version of cannabis. And the argument is, or the proposal is that THC kills cancer and CBD repairs cells. So they work together. But when you ask for a strain, you want to ask for a strain. What is a strain? Well, it's a variety of crossbreeds and hybrids, which I mentioned earlier. The original ones are indica and sativa, which are the ones that have been around the world for over 10,000 years. So eventually what happened was everyone knew about these plants all over the world, except because of its illegality, which you mentioned 70, 80 years already since Nixon, and then the competition about 100 years ago with the cotton, because cotton was also one of those prior,
And wood too.
and wood,
Oil,
oil.
cotton, and then
So
every single.
DuPont, all these companies invested a lot of money into making this illegal. But the political, also the persecution of certain communities, especially the vocal ones, when it came to against the war and all that stuff. This is a whole mix of stuff, and it's a very beautiful history because now that it's becoming legal in a lot of different states, Oregon, California, Las Vegas, all these places. I mean, there's so many places. Washington D.C., New York. I mentioned Connecticut. It's already New Jersey. I think we're always 30-something. We're up to 30-something different states with some sort of legality in the United States. It's territories, in caso de Puerto Rico, or colony I like to call Puerto Rico. We've been, for the last 3 years, we've had legalization on something called marijuana medicinal. And you can go to dispensaries. Rincon can no longer cannot have any more dispensaries because they're topped up.
We're maxed out.
Yeah, you're maxed out. You can't. So now you have to go to other municipalities. And every single one of those dispensaries, I think there are over 140, I think, on the island. Every single one sells. It's one of the industries that even when you close the whole country down and the whole world down, still sold and was very successful. Because people handled being locked up with two things. Obviously, alcohol consumption went up the roof.
You're right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, a friend of mine was telling me that doctors are seeing women come in with psoriasis, liver, fatty liver from
Yeah.
drinking too much in their 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
This is a lot
Not a
of,
good
this was
time.
this is still a lot of stress.
yeah.
I mean, this is still a lot of stress. We have been handling it, I think, but we still haven't seen the secondary effects of all this closing. We're not supposed to be closing. We're supposed to be hugging and loving each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're supposed to love.
That's
and
positive
touch.
energy.
We're social beings. We have to,
Yeah.
we have to be social.
Herd immunity.
That's it. We're here.
Let's see what happens.
And that's what we're gonna have sooner or later, right?
Sure, absolutely.
I think I mentioned the book, but the book is a digital book. It's an e-book. This is the physical form, but it's a $5 donation if you want it. It's a digital. You get it via email or WhatsApp or whatever. Mentioned
How much is the sofrito?
the sofrito. The sofrito is 10, and this is 5, and this is the jalea. It's 10 also, and the poquito is 75 because it's awesome.
But this is the good one, the THC. It's THC.
Yeah, this ones have delta 8, THC 8, which is from hemp. I'm gonna explain that in a minute. This one's got regular THC. So what happens? I'm talking about strains. So we talk about the two big plants right now who are part of this revolution. One is hemp, and we've known hemp for thousands of years because you can make a lot of stuff with hemp. You can make ropes, you can make paper, you can make
Clothing,
fuel, you can make
hats,
food for
everything.
animals. Yeah, you can make plastic, you can make wood.
Shirts.
It's a huge plant, and we know now that it also produces a wonderful oil. It's called CBD, which is very famous around the world, particularly in the U.S. And it's being sold as something that calms you down, and it also helps you repair cells, and it also has a whole bunch of other benefits. That comes from hemp. And the other plant the one that I don't have here right now, well, actually I do have for me, so maybe I'll share with you later. So that's for me. The other one is marijuana, which is cannabis, which is the same word, but the other one doesn't have. Marijuana has been stigmatized. The history says that marijuana was used in the early 20s and 30s by the black community and by the Latino Mexican community because it was used to relax and bring people down after a hard day of work. So because that community called it marijuana, they kept on and they exploited it. They exploited it all around the U.S. precisely because of the racial dimensions of it and races and all that stuff. So, but now we call it cannabis. It's the same word, it's the same plant, just trying to take the stigma away. In the process of educating new communities and new generations. So okay, so that's the one that we use in our products, and that's the one that has the THC,
Which thank you.
and the THC is the cannabinoid that makes you high. If you take the THC out, you can smoke all the weed you want, all the hemp you want, you won't get high. You may have the benefits of other cannabinoids that are in the hemp plant, and we mentioned earlier that the hemp plant or the marijuana plant has over 400 cannabinoids, and most of them we have no idea what they do still. We are opening, this is a totally new world presented to all of us, right? So, and so many options. They're saying they're crossing breeds right now, they're crossing strains right now that are geared towards, for example, kids who have autism, or kids who have convulsions, or cancer. They're supposedly, and some scientists around the world are working on this stuff. Different strains, trying to fortify different components so they can be sold as or as product for specific conditions. I mentioned that I added all of this stuff. I mentioned, and I think, let me see what else. I mentioned the strains, I mentioned endocannabinoid, I mentioned the brief history, more or less. It's over 10,000 years old. It's been documented in the Hindu Ayurveda science. It's the first, Ayurveda is the first medicine or health system of the world, and it's a Hindu, it's in India. Ayurveda is now world known, you know, and they have documented the use of cannabis. The cannabis was also used in the Americas at the beginning of the century. It was in tonics, it was served in certain products for health purposes, but then there was illegals, and then after that, things went downhill. I mentioned that in Puerto Rico, it's legal. If you have a license, you can go and get cannabis in this dispensaries all around the island that serve products that are locally grown, because you can't, because it's legal only in the territory. It's not legal in all federal government, so you can't transport from Puerto Rico to New York. You can't go from New York to Washington, D.C. You're not supposed to. It's illegal federal-wise. And they can't use the banking system. So you can't go to buy with the ATH or with credit card because it's federal who deals with the banking system all over the U.S. So it's illegal federal-wise. It's still categorized in one of the top three, which is heroin, cocaine, and marijuana.
So you have to,
right? Imagine that.
so you have to pay in cash?
You have to pay in cash.
I didn't know that.
All these dispensaries that you have here, dispensaries, inside they have their own little boat where they have all the money. Yeah. Yeah, that's why they gotta have police officers and all that stuff.
Yeah, I know my next property. They got boats with a lot of money in there.
In California, yeah. California, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Next,
Go
like,
in
you
there.
have this. What are you gonna show us your
Charge a percentage.
ID?
California, we know California don't.
Nothing.
Okay, Oregon, Oregon.
Yeah, just walk in
No,
there.
everybody's like,
Cannabis, they sell you like
over here, literally.
Every store, they'll sell you the
Yeah,
plant.
oh man, you little kid.
Every store.
You know my wife goes to that.
So the law in Puerto Rico says that it has to be cultivated here. So we have cultivation going on. We have people who do products locally, and we have people who in dispensaries all over the island that sell the products to these 100. And on the island, I think there's 130 people already with their card. 130,000 people. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And we're talking about even with all the 20 closing, and before that it was 2 years before that was legal, almost 3. And you still have 130,000 people. That's very impressive. And you know what? Not one incident, not one criminal incident, not one. They just arrested a guy a months ago for he used to buy and sell to his friends. You know, some stupid shit like that. You know, they arrested him for that. But we haven't had any major one of the first things that happened is that you took the power away from all these theaters out in the street. So you dismantled that. And now you became legal, now you're taxing it. The municipalities are making money off it. All these licenses.
They are making a lot
Tons of money. All these licenses. In San Juan, I think it's the only place on the island where you can smoke and you can walk around the street with marijuana in San Juan, because the ex-mayor, Carmen Yulín, made it legal. So in San Juan you can do it. I think there's a certain amount, I don't know how much it is, if it's, how many grams you could, I think it's 10 grams or 7
Yeah, like a half
grams.
an ounce.
Like a half an ounce, yeah. So on the island, that's at one place. So if you want to smoke outdoors, hey, go to Old San Juan in front of the moto and do what you gotta do. So we talked about the coquito, we talked about, let's see what else, we talked about the history. I mentioned Rafael Malchon, I said Robert, Rafael Malchon, which is responsible for, this was in the 1960 with the endocannabinoid system. And I'll mention 2 other doctors, Cristina Sanchez and Manuel Guzman. These are Spanish investigators, doctors who are working on cannabis and cancer. These 2. Cristina Sanchez and Manuel Guzman. Mentioned sativa, mentioned indica. There's a third plant called rubilalis, which is the one that's kind of a shrub, small plant. It's also cousin to these other 2, but it doesn't have any THC and it runs wild from everywhere. It's used for food, for animals. So I mentioned that over 4,000 strains on the island already, and those have been developed on the island. I mentioned what THC is, and I mentioned what CBD is, and the cannabinoids. You can still get, part of what they've been trying to do has been legalizing the plants. They want the products on the island to be secondary plants, secondary products, instead of you buying your plant and you smoking it how you want to. So there's been a lot of resistance to that. You know, there's been a lot of resistance. People want to be able to, as a matter of fact, we want to get the people who are in jail outside. You know, who are people who have been put in jail for marijuana possession. Free these people, unless they have other charges, right? That, and we want to be able to not persecute someone who's doing this for medicinal purpose, you know, and then they can use, I totally believe that every single cannabis consumer, marijuana consumer in the whole world has something to do with medicine or balance or looking for a healthier mindset. I believe that out of my heart. So I think no plant should be illegal. I really don't think we have the information to make any plant illegal. I don't want to talk about hash, heat, tinctures. I'll mention them real quick, but in dabbing and vaping, I'm going for sure, right? So these are new technologies. Although hash is thousands of years old and it's been consumed in Africa for thousands of years, and it's basically taking the plant, beating it, and all that oil is being scraped, and it becomes the paste, and that paste.
That's my favorite hash.
Yeah. I don't know if you can get it here. I heard some people.
That's a real thing.
But yeah, and it's a very old form of consumption. But tinctures is when you use alcohol to extract the cannabinoids. So this is the simplest form, but you will put marijuana inside of your pitorro and put it in a dark place, shake it every other, week, and then just leave it there for a couple of months. Eventually, you're gonna do what they do with pitorro. You know pitorro. As a matter of fact, here's a great example of what that's pitorro, right? But when it's pure,
It's white. It's clear
it's
white.
white and it's way concentrated. It has 100 and whatever. proof.
180 proof.
Yeah, no one really knows. It's made in the middle of, mountains or whatever. And what people do is put fruits or quenepas or coconut or all kinds of stuff to give it a certain flavor. And they will bury it, literally bury it in the,
Raul, I heard like they would mix food.
they put meat too. Yeah, they put all kinds of stuff. And how to cure it, right? They'll make a hole and bury it and put it in there for a year or two and then get it out. And then this Christmas time, boom, they'll come out and everyone will have it. Yeah. This is the real tradition. It's been like that for, I don't know how many years. I'm
So
gonna look
there's
that
no
up.
distilling.
Distilling, yeah.
Do they distill it?
It's distilled. It's not fermentized. It's like, unlike, no, in Mexico, tequila, y el otro,
So you
mezcal.
distill
They're
spirits
fermented.
and then you make.
Yeah, we distill.
Oh.
We distill. They fermentize, which is how the plant, the agave plant is cooked and cooked, and eventually kind of all of that becomes, tequila. Depends on the plant, or mezcal, which is one particular plant, right?
Yeah, it's blue agave.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. They have in Mexico. There's a lot of places where you can go on tour and watch them do this.
Jalisco.
Jalisco.
You can see the worms too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Edible.
Yeah.
They're delicious.
Yeah, I want to go. I totally want to go. As a matter of fact, I'm getting hungry now. Don't, unlike this is distilled, and it's distilled somewhere in the middle of whatever, and eventually sold. As a matter of fact, for years, the government has just ignored it because a lot of the high-class politicians consume pitorro.
Sure.
So they're like, oh, we don't know what the hell's going on. It's the same thing. So it's a wonderful thing. So yeah, they will bury it, and they will have it there for years, and then we'll pull it out and stuff. I turned this off already, so it'll start cooling down. It's going to add a little bit of the sweetener thingy. Yeah, it's very sweet.
Oh, no, you got your recipe.
And thick.
Ese es mi trabajo, sacarla
That's
de
gonna
ahí.
be online. It's got it.
Y de ahí,
Live.
Slow cook.
I go like that. Take it out and then I go like that.
This is a slow cooker. You know what? You can do this in a rice cooker. You can do it with pots and pans above the stove with overheating fire. Low, yeah. I usually take 3 hours. This has been like an hour and a half. So I usually, I forgot a step, which is very important.
If you try to make it faster, you can burn the...
Okay, I want to tell you two things. I didn't mention that the moña, the plant, the green stuff, like the flower, you have to take it to the oven. Put it in the oven, 250 for 10-15 minutes, because that activates the THC. It changes its composition from THC-A to THC-9, which is what makes you high. That usually happens when you smoke. So when you light up the marijuana, green marijuana, you smoke it, the fire changes the composition from THC-A to THC-8, and then now it gets you high. So how do you do that without burning it? You put it in the oven. I'm going to show you what I do. Yeah, this same amount.
How much amount is
earlier,
that? How much amount is that?
this is a half.
Half?
This is a half, and what's already in here is a half. So what I did was, I made a little envelope. This is what I do with all my stuff. To make the oils, and I want to mention to you, because you mentioned butter several times, I want to mention to you the extraction method. This is the extraction method. So you put this inside of the aluminum foil, It's a half an ounce, right? It's a half an ounce. And then I'll make a little envelope out of it. I've preheated the oven. If you don't do this, you won't get high. So you have to do this for this to be able to work. I did this before I came here. That's how come I forgot to mention that part. So you have to decarb. This is called decarb, which means activate the THC to THC 9. You put this 15 minutes in the oven at 250 to activate it. You pull it out of the oven and you let it cool down. Once you let it cool down, that gives you a little bit of time to put all the ingredients in. You can use this is this equipment. It's pretty cheap as a matter of fact. I think this costs like $40. I don't remember what I paid for it. I like it because this is barro. This is made out of
Great.
clay, ceramic. Yeah. So it's a good method, and it's a good also to work to clean. You know.
Another question is 250
Slow cooker.
Celsius or
Huh?
hard?
I'm not sure how. It gives you 3. It gives you low, high,
But in the oven,
and
you
warm.
put it
Oh, 250 Fahrenheit.
hard.
Fahrenheit, 250 Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Every oven is different. Like if you have an electrical oven, you have to keep your eye on it because you don't want it to burn. Because if you burn, it'll ruin your THC. It'll deactivate it or it'll make
The
it
oven gets
dysfunctional.
high.
Yeah. Yeah, you won't be high. You won't be high. It'll just smell funky. And you'll know when you open it, it's burnt. You'll know. So what you want to do, put it at 10-15 minutes, 250, keep an eye on it. When you're finished, you pull it and you just let it cool off. And you put all the ingredients in a slow cooker or in a rice cooker or in a pot. I usually use the coconuts. Coconut has the biggest capabilities of extraction. Why? Because it has more fat. And everything that has fat has the ability to extract the cannabinoids from the weed, from the marijuana. So you want fat. That can also be milk, but it has less fat than coconut. This is the highest amount of fat.
You mix that with bacon and you got the next McDonald's
You could
franchise.
use olive oil, you could use oil, you could use lard, you could use yogurt, you could use everything that has fat. And you're going to define that depending on what it is that you're going to cook. So if you're going to make coquito, maybe bacon is not the best option.
I don't think so.
But if you wanted to make a rice and bacon, then you would extract it using oil from the bacon. Yes. So you can use yogurt, you can use butter, you can use oils, all of the oils, coconut oil, you can use olive oil, you can use, and every single one of them has a different level of extraction. The highest one is coconut. This is the highest extraction, which means that you're going to get more of the cannabinoids, more of the THC, more of the CBD, more of the other cannabinoids that I mentioned at almost 400. But we still don't know what they're for, right? Most of them.
This is the reason that your body sticks in
Yeah.
the lymphatic.
Yeah, on your fat. They talk about that particular, one of the questions that I get often is that if nursing mothers can breastfeed. And the answer right now is no. Why? Because of the milk. The milk is going to be concentrated. The baby's going to be quiet. She's going to be really
Sweet.
Yeah. By the way, let me mention something. No one has ever died. No one. This is not like, for example, cocaine or heroin that interrupt the communication between your brain and your heart and your lungs and the rest of your organs. Cocaine and heroin have been known to do that. That's called an overdose. No one has ever died from cannabis. You can smoke a truckload. You can smoke 2 truckloads. You'll just sleep.
You will get sad.
I'm on to this.
You cannot get any higher, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you.
Do you think that the difference is that marijuana is more in a natural state and cocaine has been processed with other chemicals and other stuff?
No, it's more the cannabinoid system that we already have. Because what happens when you consume marijuana, it's recognized in your body not as foreign, unlike when you're doing heroin, that interrupts the communication.
Oh, yeah.
What cannabinoids do is help the communication. That's how come people who smoke marijuana will sometimes be creative and will want to sing and will want to write poetry because it stimulates your body, your brain. It also helps you function better. Some people have been, as a matter of fact, it is recommended for people who have certain conditions because of that, because you sleep better and your body while it sleeps is doing exactly that, repairing. It's repairing. So the answer is, the difference is that this is not something that interrupts your communication, it helps you communicate. So I mentioned the different, I put just a little bit, a quarter, more or less, of condensed, which is sugary, and I do it while it's still warm because it's so thick and it will stick to the bottom of the plate or of the pot or even in the rice cooker, and it could burn. But this way, it just melts right in, or dissolves right in, I should say. Dissolves right in. And this is pretty much almost done. It's still a little hot. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes. Add the alcohol. Like I said, it could be any alcohol. We usually use 151. So this is done. I mentioned there's a big market of edibles around the world, particularly in the US, but in Europe, in some European countries, they're doing it also. And I'm like, you know, the local chef. I've been experimenting on Caribbean cooking, precisely that, arroz con pollo, bistec cebollado. Yeah, I've been doing all these. As a matter of fact,
Raul.
Dude, okay.
This is not love this over here.
So, everyone who's watching from, this is how you get treated. When you come into La Librería El Coquín in Rincon. All right, so there's a big, right now you can get stuff from other places that's really well made, and it's made inside, it's made in a very, it's not like before where the guy who used to sell you something in the corner is kind of, you know, shady. Now things are, even the potency of our stuff, the potency of and the cleanliness, most of the stuff that's on the island, it's really gone through laboratories and all that stuff, precisely because it's used for people who have certain conditions, so they want to keep that as pure as possible. No pesticides, no herbicides that will harm someone's system. This, what I'm going to mention to you right now, is probably the most important part of the class. How do you, the pillars of how you understand the consumption. There's 5 pillars that I preach all the time. Tolerance, quality, the personality, people's personalities, the person's personality, delusion, delusion, or extraction, and quantity. What do each of these mean? If someone is used to smoking or used to consuming edibles, your body will tend to get used to a level. So you have a different grade or a different capacity to handle the amount of weed that you consume. So my recommendation is always start at the lowest level. And ahorita, I was talking about me, myself, and I, right? So if I want to sleep, have a nice, deep, nice sleep, I will take 3 totes of
Blue Dream.
Yeah, of smoke.
Blue
3
Dream.
totes. And that's all. And that's already, I already have experienced that it helps me sleep. If I do more, like if I do 7 or 8, or if I smoke a blunt or something like that, it just brings me in the different direction. So it's experimental, and you know why it's experimental?
Everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Everybody's different. And even someone who has consumed for very many years, different strains will have a different effect. I'm just going to throw this. If you buy a particular strain, sometimes it has more THC or more CBD, and it'll give me a different effect. As a matter of fact, It may make me edgy, or it may make me sleepless. So there's two reasons for that. Well, there's more than two reasons for that, but there's two particular reasons. And they say that sativa, sativa
Yeah.
is stimulating. Indica,
In the couch.
In the couch.
yeah,
Couch.
yes, I love it, I love it. I'm gonna use
My
it.
mother told me, I said, you remember indica is.
I love
you
it.
didn't wanna
Tell them I'm
use
gonna
it.
use it. I love it. Indica.
It's the way you remember is
Yeah. Sativa stimulation salsa.
Yeah.
Indica.
Oh,
Relaxes you. Love it. Yeah. I like that. Thank you.
I think my daughter coined that. And
Yeah.
Well, look, Batman, I'm gonna make a shirt out of this. The quality. Now we know that what we're smoking now is not what we used to smoke 20 years ago. Some of us that have been around for a long time. Because the science and the methods have been developed, and now there's better
Let me
weed
tell you
that
what
we
we
had
doing.
20 years ago, and even more potent weed than we had 20 years ago. So that's the quantity part. The personality, we already mentioned it. Different people with different personalities, so some people just naturally are more, jumpy than others, and it's going to affect you in a different way. And I'm telling you all this because if you have a bad experience, you tend to take that with you forever. So some people that when they were 14, they went out to smoke with their friends and they had a bad trip, but they smoked too much and they didn't understand it and they couldn't really handle the high, had a bad experience. We'll tend to talk bad about cannabis. But then other people had a good experience and then they'll share that too. So that's pretty much the dilution or the mixing part. Like I said, if you're using coconut versus milk, there's going to be more cannabis or THC in one than the other. Everything that with coconut, because of the fat, is going to be more concentrated. And then the quantity, which is, I'm going to share with you if you want some coquito. Let me tell you something about coquito, or everything that's edible. Everything that's edible, unlike when you smoke marijuana, you get the effect almost immediately. And when you consume edibles, it takes you, depends on your body, but it takes you anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes to feel the effect. So, some people will double dose. So if I didn't feel something for the first half an hour, this doesn't work, it doesn't have enough, I'm gonna want some more. You add more, now you get a double dose, because the first one's gonna hit you in 15 minutes. And then you got that second dose that's gonna hit you again, maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes later. So that's really, unlike marijuana, when you smoke it, you feel it immediately. You know exactly how it is or how the feeling, or what the feeling is gonna, how it's gonna affect you.
But when you eat it, the effect stays longer too.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's important too. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Yeah, when you consume it, it's in your body for a longer period of time because it has to go through your liver. Unlike when you smoke it, that goes directly to your lungs and it goes through your bloodstream. When you consume it, it has to go through your liver. It's broken down differently, so it's going to be in your system. And I've had the experience of, as a matter of fact, I can say, when I was doing coquito this week, I usually have the taste. I want to be able to know, where I'm at. And what I do is I put a drop, But sometimes 5 or 6 drops become a shot, and then 5 or 6 shots, and then I feel it, and then I'm sleeping a little later. I wake up and go, okay, that was good. So, yeah. So that happens when you're cooking. It's like chefs that are chunkier because they tend to try their food. Ingredientes, I mentioned that. I mentioned the plant. The whole plant is used. You can use the roots, you can use the stem, you can use the leaves, you can use the flower. The whole plant is used. Different amount of THC or CBD or components, but it's still used in cooking. It's still used everything in cooking. They use the roots for tea. And I mentioned the decarb, 15 minutes, 200 to 150, and the extraction. This process takes 2 to 3 hours. If you're going to do this with milk or yogurt or coconut milk or whatever, the longer you do the process of extraction, the more THC, CBD, and cannabinoids you're gonna get from the plant. All right, that's the rule right there. And 3 hours to 4 hours is a good time for you to do the proper extraction. I mentioned how many people are already here in Puerto Rico with the cards, and okay, that's pretty much it. Any questions? I'm going to add the alcohol. If you got any questions on the cannabis, I'm going to add like a quarter of that. You don't want this to take over, and whiskey has a particular flavor. Alcohol does too, but
Have you ever considered when you smoke it, that the heat kills virus and bacteria in your lungs and in your nasal cavity?
yeah, as a matter of fact,
Does it get hot enough to do that? Is the smoke hot enough?
I couldn't answer that. My only personal experience has been, they say that the cannabis consumption works at 5 different levels in your body, right? It works at emotional level because when you smoke, you tend to just put aside other occupations, so things that they bother you. They say that it affects you physically because it helps you relax your body. So when you're relaxed, you tend to communicate better within your system. They talk that spiritually, because of your energy, because your energy has changed, because now you're not preoccupied with so many things, you tend to be more relaxed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The level of energy intensifies. So there's something when we have problems, when we have issues, when we have health issues or situations that are bothering us, we tend to think a lot about them. And that kind of that woka or drains you. It drains you, all that preoccupation, all that thinking, all that having to problems. There's a great saying that if you don't have a solution for it, don't worry about it. And if you have a solution for it, don't worry about it. So, but the cannabis tends to have or give us that peace of mind and tranquility for us not to have to think about it. So emotionally, spiritually, physically, the evidence has been being documented little by little. That's what's happening now, with the ability to now that it's legal in some places, it's being investigated, and because it's being investigated, we're finding all this stuff out. Yeah. So I mentioned, I think if you have any more questions, this part, right now, I'm going to just let it cool down and not worry about that for a while. I do have some of this here, and if you guys want to try it, I got some cold, so what I don't have is little cups like this.
We got some right here.
You got some right there?
Yep.
If you're not a cannabis consumer, do a little bit. You let me know when I'm.
How much you put in that bottle right there? How much is there?
This?
Yeah.
How much cannabis?
Yeah.
How much cannabis is here? It's. I use a half, and I usually get 5 bottles out of the mix. So the question is legit. And think about all the stuff that I mentioned to you on how it affects you, depending on who you are, on your weight, on your personality, on the strain. Yeah, all that. It's unlike it's not like an aspirin. They say, okay, drink one, and it's generalized. And I don't even think aspirins can be. I think they've said that because they want to sell it, right? And it has to have a certain form. And they take a group of people and they say, most of you, did your headache go away? Some people take, yeah. So it's the same thing. I've had really good strains. One of my favorites Gorilla Glue is one of my favorites. Yeah, Gorilla Glue is one of my favorites. And it's really potent. And yeah, and cheese. There's one that's called
Yeah, I like
cheese.
cheese.
Yeah, cheese. And cheese tastes or smells like milk.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for this. It's called cheese. And it has a lot of high
How much
THC
is one
level.
of those bottles go in the street, retail for?
Huh?
How much one of those bottles?
75.
$75?
Yeah, $75. 15, 5. All this has THC and even the
And that's sofrito, right?
yes,
And like if you was, let's say for example, a person of my weight, I weigh like about 170 pounds. I'm a heavy cannabis consumer. If I was to cook with that, how much would I have to use?
this is what I tell people. I tell people use 1 and 1, right? But that's the normal cook. People who are not heavy consumers, 1 of sofrito and 1 of normal sofrito. So you have 2 for your beans, right? Whatever. So in your case, I would have 2 or 3. It does get nice and high because I've had, I consume.
So if I was making like a pot of beans with that, I would use 2 of those, 2 spoons.
2 and 2.
2 and 2, right?
Yeah.
And the whole, how many people would it just be for 1 serving? How much would I have to give the next
That's for a
person?
16-ounce can, for example. Yeah, for a 16-ounce can. For a pound.
Gotcha. Can.
Yeah, yeah. So you put 2 of those and 2 of the regular ones. Then you add all the other stuff that you put, the little papas or,
And it would give me an effect like that meal like I consumed like lunch, right?
maybe less than that.
Less than that?
Maybe less than that. Because it's meant to, it's potent. It's potent. So I did. Here's my experience with me cooking it for myself. I was driving from North Carolina to Virginia. I had food in my car because I just did one of these presentations.
Yeah.
And I stopped at a hotel and I had a cooker, not this one, but another cooker, a 2-liter little cooker. So I cooked something in my room. And I had sausage, veggie sausage in this, and I made it. And I put some sofrito, just one sofrito, and all this stuff. And like 2 hours later, I was like, shit, man. But it isn't the kind of high that.
No, I know it's more of a body.
Yeah.
It's more of a body.
It's not like
I take a lot of edibles too.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. But I do, like, if you're new to cannabis, 1 and 1. If you want to do 2 or 3, then do the equal portions. Or just put 3 of these. So you call it effective. Because you're a consumer, then you can handle it. You know how it's going to affect.
Great.
So while this cools down, give me some of those little whatevers. And whoever wants some, let me know.
Okay. Can't say no for you.
This is cold.
And y eso colorado ahí, what's that? The red thing next to the sofrito.
This is cold. This is jalea. This is grape jam.
Oh, it's jam,
Yeah,
jelly.
homemade jelly. Yeah.
Ooh. And how much is that one?
15. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that.
That's the only one left.
Yes, mine.
Okay.
It's yours, Tony.
No, I'll
Alright,
get 2 sofritos.
I'll get the sofrito if anything. If you want the jam, I'll grab a sofrito.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab 2 sofritos.
So while I'm
Y
serving
dos
this,
adobo.
the second part of the workshop, I don't know how many of you came for the crypto. Hey, what's up, Papa? Feeling good?
Feeling good.
The second part of the conversation, unless you got questions on this, let me know. And you decide how much, if you want some, you let me know. Who else wants some?
Yeah, he wants some. Right, Ray?
Oh no, I'm gonna pass.
Ray, you
You're
good?
kidding me.
Thank you.
And you consume it, huh? You good?
No, you should try.
I just had a couple of beers,
It's
shot
a
of that
Italia.
shot of that moonshine.
First.
Yeah, me too.
I'm doing all right.
Me too. You just reminded me. I got some fun.
Yo, papita,
Shot of that moonshine here.
Mira, no me engañen.
You can taste it too.
Go, sir. Tastes really good.
You can taste the cannabis.
¿Verdad?
Salud.
Salud.
Buen provecho.
Yeah, you can taste the cannabis.
Papi, you want some?
Wow, sabe bien.
Muy rico, eh.
Sabe delicioso.
This is THC, huh?
Ese tiene THC. Tiene THC del de verdad. O sea, no es TH8 o TH9. Gracias. Muchas gracias. ¿Quién más quiere? Rosa, después no me llamen a las 3 de la mañana que no puedo dormir.
Delicioso. Rosa.
Ay, yo dije, ¿dónde está mi amor? Hoy Shannon se fue. No, ella está fuera con el...
Si se puede.
¿Cómo que si se puede?
No, ella no se puede.
A veces no se puede.
Se puede, pai, se puede.
Siempre se puede.
No quiero que tenga una mala experiencia. Porque está bueno.
Rosa puro, Rosa, eso de gallo, ahora
Después no me digan. No lo digo por eso. Lo digo porque está bien fuertecito.
yeah, this is good too. Tastes good, ¿verdad que sí?
En media hora, 45 minutos.
Se prueba it tastes like cannabis too.
O sea, porque he tenido gente con eso mismo, ¿verdad? Quiero que la pases bien.
So, una persona se bebe una botella de eso, no llega a beberse la completa.
Yo tengo un amigo que se bebió una botella de eso y le digo, no, que ese Raúl que está hablando mucha mierda. ¿Sabes qué? Estaba con una chica y el próximo día yo, mira, yo me fui de que te dormía. I had a friend of mine who was with a girl and he bought a bottle. I love you, Papa. No, I'm looking at the camera over here. I'm looking at the camera over here. You know who you are. So he was like just drinking. He was hanging out, watching TV with her. He kept on drinking the whole bottle. The next day, she called him and she was like, you just fell asleep. You just fell asleep. So,
Yeah, that's the worst thing that can happen from cannabis. It's just fall
yeah,
asleep.
that's it. No one has ever been. No one's ever
Yeah.
passed.
Well, I smoked enough in high school for a lifetime.
Okay.
You pass out and wake up with the munchies.
Ah, una medalla.
Ah, ok. Bien, aquí estamos, avisan.
¿No viste? ¿Eso tú me dijiste que me ibas a dar o qué?
El coquito.
Ah, el coquito para probar.
Pero tiene que ganar.
Me doy un shot.
Pero hay un chocito.
Mira,
Raúl, consume.
Raul,
si tú
I
le dices,
want
no,
shot.
mira, estoy entre amigos, cualquier cosa me levantan y me
me llevan.
No quiero nada.
Con cannabis. Esta es la primera vez.
Y tú eres loco de aquí, de esta área.
Yo soy de Yauco.
Okay.
Pero me lo puedo beber. Ay, copa rosa.
No, agua para ti.
La segunda parte está bien fuertecito.
Ok.
Lo digo con corazón. Entonces, la segunda parte de la conversación es crypto. Who's in crypto? Who has crypto? You got crypto.
Yeah,
Nice. You
otra
got
cosa.
crypto. Nice. You got crypto.
Okay,
I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. This is freedom, man. What we're talking about right now. I have a friend who's coming in. I hope he gets here anytime soon. They call him the Crypto Taxi PR. Is this Boricua? Who was this North American guy came in and he got into his taxi and he took him around the San Juan area. At the end of the trip, he was like, how do you want me to pay you? This was about 4 years ago. How do you want me to pay you? You want me to pay you in cash or you want me to pay you in crypto? But the guy knows nothing about crypto. So he was like, all right, pay me in crypto. Está bien, no problem, pay me in crypto. That's when Bitcoin was 0.01. The beginning of this year, where did it go? 75,000.
Oh, yeah.
He cashed in $150 worth of 0.01.
Wow.
Yep.
I
He's
hear-
coming in. He bought a condo, he bought a car, he going to Dubai.
Damn!
Shit, papi. He should be coming. He should be coming. I
One of the
invited him.
first transactions in crypto was like pay a pizza with 150 bitcoins. Was the
We're talking about, for those of you who don't know what crypto is, I don't know, I think everyone here knows, right? But crypto is digital money.
Yep.
And there's over 4,000 digital, I think more
Yo no
now.
quiero sentir.
No. Ma, this is worth a lot
No,
more.
yo le estaba preguntando, le estaba
It's
diciendo a la
hard,
gente,
man.
le estaba explicando a la gente de crypto coin y de coin, you know, bitcoins. Me dice, pero eso va a ser muy pesado para yo cargar. Digo, no, es digital.
No, es digital. Y lo llevas en tu cartera o en tu celular.
Si lo tengo yo en PayPal, tengo una
Sí,
cartera.
Tú tienes tu wallet
Ahí
aquí
hay
o
un
PayPal.
ATM crypto.
Ah, tienes uno en crypto. Sí,
Sí.
que tú vas con
Ahí.
scan.
Aquí hay un ATM en la gas
Antes
station.
del rey, de gas station de la.
Papi, ¿quieres
Yeah.
un poquito con?
Vamos.
Mira, Rosa, mi amiga Rosa afuera me mandó a pedir uno.
Nomás no cuenta.
Rosa me
¿Cómo me
pidió
coño?
una de coquito.
¿Cómo no te veo?
Después hay que llevarlo a la casa.
Desde que nos dejaron del mundo.
Ay,
Tenemos el mundo canábico aquí.
qué bueno ver caras
You know,
Es
Raul,
verdad,
que
gente
se
que
me
no
olvidó de
pica,
uno.
mucho.
Raul, Ethereum started
That's
this
Rico,
year
that
at
one.
1,000. Triple the
Now
price.
it's a
It's 3,000. Was the one that wrote more than the others. It's the, now it's like the best.
Está bien bueno.
Because Bitcoin was started here in 70,
No, it's 50, or something.
Good.
but Ethereum jumped from 1,000 to 3,000.
Está pasando. Bien, está más fuerte.
Yeah,
Qué va.
Entonces,
Mamá, ¿cómo está?
Bien, en casa.
there's over 1,000. Those are the two that are most known.
Litecoin.
Yeah, like there's Litecoin, there's the
Bitcoin
Doshi, there's the Bitcoin Cash. There's a lot of these coins, and what we recommend is that you investigate, you read up on them, you see what they are. They're projects, or are they just coins like Bitcoin, where you have a cap and you can just there's nothing else you can do with them. Unlike Ethereum, as a platform, you can do smart contracts, you can do oracles, you can do exchange as in buy and sell products. It's more of a complex coin.
But the thing about Ethereum, you ever hear Max Kaiser? You know
I
Max,
have heard of them.
Max Kaiser? He's a very smart guy. He says that Bitcoin is really the only real one because it is not centralized. The banks cannot control it.
Right.
All the others are centralized.
Bitcoin has a limit though on it though.
What's that?
Bitcoin has a limit.
But-
Bitcoin's gonna end up being like the gold of
Yeah, suppose it's a limit of.
But you can do fractions of it though.
But eventually, there's a certain amount of them. So it's gonna get to a point where
Oh,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
21
like
million.
it's gonna be like gold, and then
21 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to get any more.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be. It has market cap, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not. They're not gonna be able to produce more.
Yeah,
That's
right.
that's the beauty of that particular
But
coin.
the difference in the value in US dollars is going to change.
Yes.
As it becomes more rare, it's going to get more
Oh no,
expensive.
it's gonna be the gold of cryptocurrency.
They say it already is.
It's the gold, and then Ethereum is silver, and I believe that they were saying that Doge is gonna be like bronze, you know. But it's Ethereum, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and they're trying to say Cardano or Doge. They're trying to fight.
Dogecoin, what is that?
It's also
Why is it
stuff
only
with
in
people out of stuff with Cardano.
Dogecoin
There's
is
thousands
it's
of
like it does the same thing as Bitcoin does, but it's like Bitcoin's little brother.
Okay.
That's what they're trying to say as it. It's just another. It's just something for people to.
And it's a meme coin. It's a different.
It's a
because
meme coin,
the
yeah.
Technology used.
An everyday coin for the people. You could use it for simple things. Like you're not gonna go to the movie theater and pay with a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Well, not a whole Bitcoin, but you
Now
can
you
put,
gotta-
Even a partial.
It's
Even a
funny
partial.
because in
I'm not
PayPal you
gonna-
can buy
I'm not gonna waste my
$1
Bitcoin on a movie theater.
well,
You know?
they're going to figure
There's
out a
another
way
fact
to
that
do
you
that.
mentioned that AMC.
I made money on AMC.
No, but AMC just accepted Bitcoin as payment.
And Ethereum, so did Walmart. Walmart too is about
But
to do
you
it.
can not. You can start going to the movie theater and pay for your popcorn with Bitcoin.
You can buy gold
Would you?
and silver with
Well,
it.
I wouldn't sell it.
I would say,
Raul, I heard that
yeah.
Bitcoin by the end of the year is gonna go to $700.
That's what I heard too. A
I
lot
heard
of people are
200,000.
expecting.
And in a couple of years, it's gonna be like 2.5
At the
million
end of the year?
or more.
By the end of the year.
It's gonna be an interesting year. 2022.
Do you
It's
want to
gonna be a real interesting year.
No, I haven't.
You don't have?
I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to
Here's
do
what
it.
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you a kit of videos. Don't invest until you understand what it is, because it's very important. Because eventually you're gonna make economic decisions, and everything that you do economically, this business, you read up, you educate yourself, and you make decisions with information that is based on some investigating. So I'm gonna send you some videos, and once you start seeing how this is and how it works and understanding, then you'll know what to invest in, because it'll make sense. There's over 4,000 or even more coins.
Cannabis chef.
So you can just you don't have to want to
I want to get y'all.
Cannabis chef.
That's another one of those that are saying that's going to grow and it's going to keep growing. It's gone up in the next few weeks.
Cardona
Cardona's also another one.
Cardano's gonna go up to $10 by the end of the year.
and that Dogecoin.
Yeah, I got Doji and I want to sell it, and I bought way too high on that crap. So.
When I told Tony about Doge, it was at 0.003.
See, that should have been back then.
Now,
I was way stupid.
how
I
is
bought-
the Dogecoin?
Dogecoin.
Get rid of it.
Es una moneda, es un
¿En
Bitcoin.
cuánto está
Es un
ahorita?
Bitcoin,
¿Ah?
que
¿En
significa-
cuánto está ahorita?
Ahora mismo está en 31 centavos.
Exacto.
Bueno, cuando él me dijo, estaba como...
A
A
0.
punto 00
Yeah, a punto 0003.
That was then.
That was in February. We did.
I messed
That
up.
was
Oh, you did?
around that was around February, like January, February. What was going on with something was weird by that time in January, in the beginning of the year. There was something weird going on. Like most of the people here in Puerto Rico that we were trying to like link up, like the Robin Hood or the
Yeah.
Weibo,
Yeah.
they weren't allowing us to apply unless you had like a out of state ID type thing. It was weird because you went through that too, right?
They're going through. There's a lot of. The banks are sabotaging a lot of this stuff because it's going to put them out of business.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah.
They're going to put them out of business. I mean, you're not
Well,
going to have
that's
to
why they
deal
buy it out.
with banks. I can do person to
Banks are
person.
wanting to get into crypto.
Ethereum
They
in 1
should.
year.
They want to.
But what they want to do what they're doing now is control
More
the
than
whole
big.
thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing. See, that's what Max Kaiser says.
668.
He says that Bitcoin is the only one that is not centralized because the blockchain is on millions of computers all over the world. That's the only one. Ethereum is located in a centralized location. If they want to stop it, they can go in and they
He's a
stop it.
great person. He knows a lot. If you know, he also does it in Spanish. You know his program.
Max Kaiser?
He does it in Spanish.
Yeah.
Very good stuff.
Well, he had a digital coin in the World Trade Center offices in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. And he has a patent on it.
Because there's been other projects like it. As a matter of fact, there's one, this guy who put him in jail and stuff like that. Because I don't know if it's real.
Well, you see, Max Kaiser's on stage telling the World Bankers, we're going to finish you.
Yes.
See, so he's a threat to them.
I drink the shot.
Now, he'll tell you Bitcoin is the only game in town. He'll tell you
Yeah, I
that.
see him.
Now, that's his opinion on it. I don't really know. But he says because Bitcoin is not centralized, they cannot stop it.
I'm with you.
The only thing they can stop though is if they're threatening enough, you gotta ask yourself, will they shut down the internet? If they shut down the internet, all those coins are nothing.
Wow, that's crazy. You're right about that. They should have they shut the internet down. You're fucked. You're right.
Oh, they turn up the light.
Hey, excuse me, sir.
Just turn it up the light.
I know I had to leave. My wife called me.
Well, yeah, what did
So
you
good, so
buy
you get there before
anyway?
this hits you.
You'd be growing a garden at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
fine.
like, yeah, it's good.
That's the one you made right now? Or is that another one?
No, this is the one with the real
Yeah.
thing.
That's the one that has the real
That's
thing.
the question, what will the World Bankers?
That's why it's good to get to. When you get home, let me know.
I'm gonna let you know, too. I want you to know, too.
Shut
Yeah, man.
What is the back
I
code?
want that.
It's no back code.
God,
Yeah, you taste it, right?
Oh my God.
No,
It's $70 too.
you know.
So,
even a
so
piece of
Oh my God, you can taste it so much.
the technology behind
can put it in
Bitcoin and other coins is called blockchain,
Yeah,
right? And ledger. I want to explain that real quick.
Nobody got a mask here.
I got a mask.
Yeah, take it off.
It's a como expresión de grupo.
there you go, hey man, good to see you.
6 feet, 6 feet
Ah,
apart.
see what you
You're
look like,
growing
bro.
in 6
Put-
feet.
Hey, Raul, put it back on.
So the blockchain technology is this technology that has been since the 70s. It's been around for a while. It just wasn't used, and it's just recently. Bitcoin only has like 12 years, and it's the grandpapa of all these other coins that have come up lately. For 13 years, it's absolutely nothing. But it is said that it's going to change all of the financial system, where something is not going to be centralized, because there's 5 or 6 families that control the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is break with that, and that's what Bitcoin is doing, because you don't
Yeah.
have to go to any bank, because you can transfer money from my account, my wallet, to your wallet, to his wallet, and that gets all registered in this thing called blockchain, which is the information of transaction that just happened. It gets encapsulated in this block, connected to another chain, to every single one of the transactions that's going on for the last 12 years in this thing called Bitcoin. So it's not the only one that has that technology, but it's called blockchain. The whole ledger, the whole enchilada is called ledger. which is the whole information, every single transaction, and every single one of us have the same copy. So if you have a wallet and you have a wallet and you both have Bitcoin, you have the same information he has, and you can look into it whenever you feel. Because it's open source. I mean, you could look at it, read it, you can't see the person's name, but you can see the transaction that was done. So that's why it's so important, because it opens up the world instead of us interpreting things that are happening and someone else making another interpretation. It's encapsulated and you can't change it. If you change that information and she has the same information, it's not going to match, because only you change your ledger for you cheating and needing. And there are thousands of people around the world, and that's what makes it so secure. Nothing's on the internet is secure, but this is better or more secure than a lot of other things.
Only question I have it's only the question. What is a Bitcoin? It's an equation.
Yes.
What is
An
that?
algorithm.
I've heard it put like this, and it's a huge math problem. And all these computers around the world are working
trying to
figure
solve
out,
that.
trying to solve it. And
Like
as they reach
equation.
a certain point in the math problem, a coin is minted. So it's all based on logic of math. It's not based on, like, the Federal Reserve
Yeah.
just prints more money whenever they need more money or something. This will not just print more money because it's based on logic of math.
It controls inflation a lot better, you know?
Yeah.
It controls inflation a lot better.
I'm so happy to see you guys here. Qué bueno.
That's what I've heard.
These brothers are here. Yo te estaba hablando, I already talked about you earlier. So, Jose's going to talk to everyone in a minute about his experience. He is the crypto taxi guy. And these other brothers are here. They're also part of the crypto world.
Hello.
Come in and present yourselves, please. Wow. Wow. Good to see you. So, I presented you a while ago and talked about your story. I mentioned him earlier. He was a guy who gave someone a ride. He didn't know what it was, and all of a sudden he says, okay, come with Bitcoin. And the experience was, we were just talking about ledger just now. And we were just talking about blockchain. So if you want to throw anything in, I know you just got here. But
So is anybody here have cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or heard of it or familiar with it? Yeah, so.
Got a little, very little, but I got the little Ethereum. I had Bitcoin, but I traded it and lost it.
That's okay. Hey, look, it's still early.
Yes.
You know, cryptocurrency, it only still being 12 years old, there's 125 million total users out of 6.7 billion.
Right.
So realistically, it's still embryonic. And we need to do everything we can to educate the masses to get more people on board. When we have about 350 million people globally, you could then say that this market was born. But still, it has to grow. That's where you're going to see Bitcoin go from 44,000 up to 3 to 4, $15 million. Especially if they keep printing money the way that they're doing.
I heard in the news Bitcoin is going to go to $700,000 by the end of the year.
Could. So it's a roller coaster. Just make sure you're in position. So if it does run up, pull some of your profits, because it will retrace, and then you just pull it in again.
It's always going up and down.
With the cycle, it's a Ferris wheel that's cycling up, because it's new.
Yeah, but always go.
It's a baby in the belly kicking. Yeah, it cycles. It's a Ferris wheel. Some people got it very low at 300. In 2014, when I saw Bitcoin, it was $323. But then it goes up to 23,000, it goes back down. But you got to think we're just in a third wave cycle, where the stock market's had 80,000 cycles. That's how early we are.
March was going to start down.
Yeah, well, I think in March it was like it's 3,200.
Nice
maybe you can go.
It's huge.
Come here so they can see you with the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Good looking guy.
Yeah, yeah. No, but the beautiful thing about cryptos that I see, it is designed, I think, to evaporate poverty globally, simply by folks downloading the banking app. They get to leapfrog their corrupt governments. And really the key to cryptos is educating the masses. It's letting people understand, like walkie-talkies when we were little kids. If I have my purse and my digital wallet, but he doesn't have his. I can't communicate with him. Currency, cryptocurrency is a form of language. So if he has his digital wallet and I have my digital wallet, then we can share. It's about the store should collect cryptocurrencies for some of the books as a secondary form of payment. Because anybody that's up here that does have cryptocurrency, they'll come and spend it because they want a place to do the walkie-talkie. They don't have enough outlets to buy or share or spend the Bitcoin or the other cryptocurrencies. So if we can get more people to take on the cryptos, the more people in the network start to build. And I think it's very important that we all use it because like in 1991, when email came out, we could still write correspondence, lick stamps, mail the letter. 4 years later, we were able to email videos and pictures. This is just the third evolution of the internet, the blockchain, that now allows us to email money and value. If we can educate the masses on how simple the technology is to use and to engage, that it is for everybody, I think it's going to be easier to make things happen. For us in the community, our first deal is we have to translate our financial language to Spanish. It's critical that this financial language is translated to Spanish language. And that way anybody won't be afraid to approach it and use it. I've been in and out of Bitcoin probably 6 different times since 2014. It's low, it's high, it's low, it's high, it's low. You know, when it's high, everybody's successful. But if you don't pull your profits and it's low again, you're going back to doing your old school business, save money, and get it back into crypto. So really crypto is about thinking ahead and watching the market because we're just here. In the grand scheme of things, this thing is going way, way beyond.
Here's the stats. 300,000 people around the world have some sort of cryptocurrency. There are 6.5 or 7.5 billion people in the world. So think about where we are and how much more it needs to grow. The countries that are right now are the most, the 20% of those 300 people are countries in Africa, or the Philippines, or Chile, or other countries. The U.S. is 6% only. So this is going to blow.
So on that point, so this is the thing. The United States will be the very last country in the world to fully accept cryptocurrency.
There's a reason for that.
The reason why, because they have the ATM on every corner. They have mortgages, they have credit, they have lending, they have interest rates. They have everything that the centralized system. It's not designed for the American citizen at all. It's designed. Now we are forward-thinking investors that we're really taking advantage of a technology that's designed for parts of the world that have been forgotten. That's why this cryptocurrency technology can truly heal Puerto Rico. Because in the event of a hurricane again, if most citizens, Boys and Girls Club, all these different groups have their digital wallets, and another Maria happens, I don't have to wait for the governor to send us money. The local community, global community, can easily just digitally send us fractional donations if everybody had their wallets in place. Hence the walkie-talkie. You don't have to wait for the local government. The global community, like Puerto Rico's hurt, let's everybody, I'm going to send $5, I'm going to send $10, I'll send $50. And fractionally that would come in from all over the world.
Let me ask
Cell
you.
phone towers didn't work for real. There was no signals. There was no.
Oh yeah, that's it.
So like if we wanted to do a digital transaction for Maria, that wouldn't happen.
I heard that hand radio operators, they are using the radio data to transfer Bitcoin.
Really? All the
Yeah,
ham
I
radio?
read that.
Now,
I read
that's
that
something.
like
That's
that.
something. But yeah.
How many people
You
have
have cell
ham
phone
radio?
use for probably.
Yeah, I am a hand radio operator.
Probably more.
And remember,
When
Carlos,
did we
we
start
have
getting cell
thousands.
phones?
That's great.
When did the tower start working? I didn't talk to my family for 14 days or something after Maria.
Right.
We couldn't make a phone call.
Yeah, this is true. This is all true.
But imagine after that 14-day gap that you knew there was hundreds of millions of dollars that were sent by the rest of our community that live around the world, and they can start hitting these wallets.
No, we know that happened. We know that happened.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff that was spoiled, tons of stuff that was sent and never received.
Yeah.
That we could have totally avoided
We can
if we had some other system.
We can support ourselves just through the global community, saying Puerto Rico's hurt or it's coming. Here's what happens. They see the storm coming across from Africa 7 days in advance. Here's the digital wallet. The community just starts sending money to that wallet. shit hits the fan, we pop up 14 days later, there's funds already there for us to disperse.
And let me tell you something else that happened.
Without
in Puerto Rico.
permission.
The banks did not open. The banks did not open. I think it was like 2 or 3 months. So what the cooperativas, the credit unions, like the ones that here and the one in Jalpo, they did open because they're locally owned and run. So that was another means. And they limited how much you can get out too, $150. So you made a 4-hour line to get $150, which you probably already spent in the last 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, because they don't want to run on the bank.
But analyze that whole cell phone tower thing. How does it affect that? It shouldn't have. Right? Like this is satellite phone, isn't it? So how does that affect that? I'm not bright guy, but what the fuck was that?
$70 bottle. That's good.
Why did we not have cell phone?
Well, we had some kind of cell phone the first few weeks. After the 3rd week or 4th week, people used to go to the places where the towers that were in place.
We should have had.
No, because you know what happened? The whole system was destroyed, right?
Yeah.
But the only one that was left was the state system, the one that was owned by Claro. And people used to go to where the towers that were still standing.
We went to the
Yeah, the number 2.
and
call
everybody was
their families.
parked. So me and Tony says,
I think they're waiting for aliens or something. That's what I thought. And they were waiting for a signal.
They're waiting for Jesus.
And it's just that people wanted to.
When we went to La Paredera, we went to Mataladratas, and the reception was perfect.
Yeah.
We,
It depends
the
on
mobile was
which antennas were
excellent
left
that time.
was standing still after the earthquake. But I mean the hurricane. But here's we're trying to get away from the middleman, from the banks. Instead of doing that, all this money could. Right now, think of Haiti. Right now, the wallet storing place that people move.
Yeah, we all of us could throw in $2 a piece or whatever, 5 cents or less. We could us could start donating to the Haitian earthquakes. And that's what it means, but what we're talking about is the global community understanding how important Puerto Rico truly is to fostering the crypto. They would support that, but we have to have the catcher's mitts in place to receive the pass that they're going to throw, because a storm will come. And it's so important for us to educate the local community about just having this in a worst case scenario. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
No, and the storm is coming because in September, the insurances like the unemployment insurance, the co-op, and the DUA are going to stop. Plus, the extensions of people who own homes who haven't paid their banks, they've been saying, okay, no, not now, not now. You have 6-7 months piled up. You're going to have to pay for that in September. And if you don't have the money, you are really screwed. Why? Because you're going to lose your home. So what?
So it's not going to go back to a month, but the month is going to be
There's going to be a wave of
eviction. All the back.
A wave of evictions is going to come across.
I know. I get it, man.
This is a buyer's market now. I mean, this is a seller's market now. They're eventually going to be able to buy all these products.
I know.
Puerto Rico
has, and you know, they're doing this all over the country.
Yeah.
They're doing this in California. They're doing this in Texas.
Look at BlackRock. This is a company called BlackRock. Yeah, BlackRock. They're doing this. They're doing this really strategically because in Puerto Rico and like the US, most people here own homes. I mean, my abuelita home paid for her home. I own a home. Your father, your parents, you own a home. So it's very different from over there where people depend on paying rent. And places like New York, you know, where people can't buy a house because it costs $300,000 or $400,000 or $1 million.
Here's what's funny. We all grew up in a house with the rotary telephone, yes? With the long cord hanging on grandma's wall. We all grew up that way. But look at everybody here. We all have the digital phones, right? It's just a matter of time. What we've got to do is just let people understand this is a tool to assist you. We could still go back and use the rotary telephone, make the same phone calls that we wanted to. But the convenience of the smartphone allows us to just have the power in our hands. And that's simply all we got to do is educate what this technology does. It's like, it's chocolate. They can add whatever ingredient to it. If they sell books, accept the cryptocurrencies as an extra. Some people will spend, maybe it's 50 cents, right? So they use a currency, they'll spend fractional 50 cents. And then the store can hold those Bitcoins and not ever get rid of them, just hold them. That's what we wanted to start interacting.
You ready to die, didn't you?
I had a question before y'all got here that I heard, and it was that
Have you tried this?
Max Kaiser.
Yeah, I love Max.
Yeah, Max is a great guy. And he's big on Bitcoin.
That one's
Yeah, he's a master.
Going to $200,000 this year. He says
Oh, yeah.
it may go higher.
Yeah.
Uh,
He was buying Bitcoin at $1.
yeah, yeah.
Really?
And but I got to thinking about this, and I've heard other people talk about it.
I don't even drink alcohol.
And Max is on stage saying this is going to take down the international bankers.
Yeah. The genie's out of the bottle. Yeah, the genie is out of the bottle.
I would love to see that. Yeah,
You will.
great.
You will.
But the thing is, if it's a big enough threat to the international bankers, don't you think they'd shut down the internet?
No, they can't.
You don't think they
Hell
can?
no. They might try to black out certain parts of the world like South North Korea.
Okay,
but
well,
you're
I'm glad
not
to
gonna,
hear that.
No, hang on. But you're not going to shut the whole internet down. And now with with Elon Musk putting Starlink in,
Yeah.
then it pops up to there. So that's what they're going to.
Well, and he has another, Max talks about another different thing, and that's the decentralization of Bitcoin, and the only one that is decentralized is Bitcoin.
Truly.
All the others have centralized
Elements.
elements.
But you got to think it's still embryonic. This thing's growing. You can't expect it to be Michael Jordan as a baby. But it's going to grow that way.
I get it, I get it.
So we're on the path.
Interesting conversation, you know. This is a really interesting subject.
Yeah,
No, it's
this is
his
exactly
story.
what we want to do. We want to
I
start
mean, even if it
We're talking about
disrupts
crypto now.
the
right?
international bank.
We want to
Oh, it
start
already
getting
has.
people to
It's
talk.
great.
It already
Understand.
has.
More people are talking, more people understand it. So
Sure.
eventually, if it comes to knowledge, common knowledge, and everyone, they'll be able to participate. That's what we're trying to do too. We want to
It has to be
educate
easy
the
for
local
the
community.
masses to get into.
Absolutely.
It has to be very easy.
Well, a lot of people, look, there's some people that don't use email still.
Yeah.
Because they enjoy writing correspondence. But they can still do both. But you know what I'm saying? But it's just an evolution. Some people, the technology can be scary, but it can be a wonderful tool in the right hands and with the right heart.
The right hands is key.
This is what we
Right
did.
hand.
This is what we did a couple of years back. Me and my nephew, we were very concerned about my mother, who was an elderly woman, understanding what a phone and how it works, functions. So we spent time with her to make sure that she understood, because it was
That
important
you were
for her.
comfortable enough knowing she understood. It was peace of mind for you and for
I
her.
wanted to her protect herself. I wanted her to understand this, so no one can say, give me this, or do this, or what's your passport, or whatever. Now she's
Yeah, you want that?
she's,
They're in it.
yeah, and she's also knowledgeable enough to protect herself and even the friends around her.
Check
You
this
know?
out. Now, because I do believe education is important.
How you doing? Vaya, Danny, mucho gusto.
Danny,
I look at
hablando de cripto, Danny, no te vayas.
I look at cryptocurrencies like full-blown Max Kaiser level cryptocurrency knowledge. He's a dive master, scuba diving at 500 feet below surface. The newbies that are coming into the cryptos, they're just splashing around in the shallows with their feet getting wet. Then there's people that are snorkeling. Maybe a few of us are just snorkeling around. But see, you can walk on land, breathe, go to the bank, do all that stuff. But cryptocurrency is the seed of opportunity, right? And the deeper you get into these waters, the more prepared you need to be. Just like scuba, you need to know your procedures and protocols. You need to know what all this equipment is, because the pressures are greater. You can function just like you do on the land, but you're underwater in this new system. And if people understand the importance of, you can just splash in the shallows, or if you decide to go deeper into crypto, you have to be prepared with certain knowledge and understanding that builds on it. So that way it doesn't have to be this. When I learned about cryptos in 2014, it was the worst experience, totally out of sequence of what it was. It took me almost 8 months to untangle this horrific technology I'd never heard of, the words, or what any of it even meant, to try to even make a system of what it was.
Wallet.
Yeah, I heard about blockchain. Fast forward 3 years later, my friend's a multi-millionaire. He never told me about the currency side. So in my mind, I have to rewind, like, whoa, what? I was paying him $100 to write my movie treatment.
Buy stuff
He was
with this?
buying $400 bitcoins with my $100 weekly installments to him. And then flash forward, he's a multi-millionaire. I'm like, how did that even possibly happen? What did I miss? So I had to untangle my knowledge. So what I want, like you're saying, make that educational transition smooth. Like we were just talking about a crypto cookbook. It's just recipes of cryptocurrency put into a basic recipe format. Here's the ingredients, here's your digital wallet, here's your this, here's your that. And you put this together to get this outcome. Just like baking cookies. But it's a technology book.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
So that way there's no scary factor. We want more people to engage it than to be scared of it. Because we've been out of it long enough, and with what the government's doing, nothing's going to be scarier than them printing trillions of dollars because our savings are going right out the window.
Oh, not to mention retirement funds.
Bitcoin is your retirement fund.
I'm gonna get some.
We're blessed to witness this. I'm telling you that. It's very historic that we get to witness this happen.
There's something to it.
Oh, no, gracias.
So you're the taxi driver?
No. Jose. Share your story with them on the Bitcoin. He's
I was curious.
Received global acclaim.
Cool.
Yeah, he's done a lot. And tell them your story. They're going to record it.
You're going to cover others.
Okay. Yeah, his
You have
story.
to learn Spanish now because I'm going to speak in Spanish.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, his story is impressive.
It's simple.
His story is our story.
But it was spread around the world, all over
So
the world.
when you got your first Bitcoin for that taxi cab fare, did you have a phone with a wallet on it?
No.
He helped you get a wallet?
No.
How did you get the Bitcoin?
Okay, he told me, how much is it for the ride? I said it's $15. Can I pay you with Bitcoin? And I had no idea what Bitcoin means. And I say, okay, pay me in cash.
Hazme un favor, ponte al frente de la cámara para que te vean.
Okay.
Y déjame presentarte propiamente, chico. Oye, yo hablé de este señor, I'm going to be standing. I spoke about him earlier. He's the crypto taxi PR guy.
Yes,
Este es el señor que se le dice o se le llama Crypto Taxi PR, pero él se llama José y es un puertorriqueño cualquiera que tuvo una experiencia espectacular. He's just a regular guy, he had a great experience, and I want to share it. I want to make sure that everyone hears it. Make sure you're doing his best. José, gracias por venir. Thank you for being here.
Bueno, mi historia comenzó en el 2017. Unos amigos me hablaron de Bitcoin, como para verano. Y pues yo no sabía qué era eso. Le compré a un amigo Bitcoin en un ledger, le di dinero y lo guardé. Pero dejé eso ahí, más nunca volví a tocar ese tema. Después tenía otros clientes que eran millonarios, que tenían inversiones en Bitcoin, compraron Bitcoin al frente mío, $500,000 en Bitcoin, en el celular ahí. Mira, ¿cómo es eso? Explícame, compraron casas en Dorado. ¿Cómo tú hiciste eso? Explícame eso. Tienes que ponerte a leer porque no te puedo explicar lo que toma un año, mucho tiempo en aprender. Porque esto es mucha información, tienes que buscar información por ti mismo. Ah, pues dale. Me quedé con eso en la mente porque me olvidé de eso. Me llega este cliente, me llama por teléfono, está en mi casa viendo Netflix, perdiendo el tiempo viendo Netflix, no pierde el tiempo ahí. Estaba en mi casa y me llama este cliente, lo busqué de Isla Verde al condado, un restaurante, estaba celebrando con su prometida, como para el compromiso y eso, una cena. Y yo lo llevé y me dice, ¿te puedo pagar con Bitcoin? Y el Bitcoin eso otra vez, ¿cómo es eso? ¿Cómo lo hago? ¿Qué le digo? ¿Que sí o que no? Que se echaba, son $15, es decir, que sí aceptó Bitcoin, pero yo no sabía ni cómo aceptarlo. Pero le dije, págame este viaje en efectivo, que son $15, lo estoy empezando ahora que me sacaste de mi casa, y de regreso me pagas con Bitcoin. Cuestión que me diera tiempo a averiguar en internet cómo aceptar Bitcoin. Y empecé a buscar y lo más fácil que encontré fue Coinbase, porque es user friendly, eso es bien fácil de usar. No lo conecté con mi banco todavía, simplemente como si fuera una cartera, sin banco. Y le digo a él, Logan, puedes, yo le dije a él una mentira blanca, una baila, por ahí. Le dije, la otra cartera se me rompió la pantalla del celular y no sé cuál es, ni no puedo abrir esta cosa, pero bajé esta hora para no usarla. Pero era mentira todo eso, era para que él me dijera cómo usarla.
¿No fue ahí mismo que le hiciste?
Ahí mismo, como una hora y media me tomó todo ese revuelo. Le dije, yo tengo una cartera Bitcoin, pero se me rompió la pantalla del celular y no puedo entrar. Descargué otra y le dije que para que él lo hiciera, yo verlo como él lo hacía. Me pagó y cuando me pagó $150 en vez de $15. Cuando llegó a mi casa, como la transacción tardó como 6 mineros para verificarla. Tardó como 30 minutos en hacerse efectivo en mi wallet. Yo llamo, mira, me pagaste de más $135 que no son míos. Pues yo no perdí de cogerle dinero a nadie. Está bien, quédate con eso. Después me da un par de viajes y lo consume de ahí. Lo fui llevar a Dorado, a un par de sitios. A lo último se fueron para Texas y me dejaron como $60 que no usaron, me dieron de propina. Al otro día él compartió en su Facebook la experiencia que tuvo conmigo. El primer taxista en Puerto Rico, eso se regó por el mundo entero por una cosa como flash. Al otro día yo tenía 500 requests en Facebook. Y yo vine, empecé a buscar quién era el que me enviaron requests, y si era un CEO, una persona wealthy que me pudiera yo escalar más arriba. Porque si era uno que no sabe nada, yo no voy a pegar de eso, voy a pegarle que sabe. Para que me enseñe a aprender de él, ¿verdad? Y escalar más arriba y hacer mejores relaciones con mejores personas. A un nivel más alto que el mío. Y yo dije, bueno, aceptar. Si era CEO de una compañía, aceptar. Aceptó un montón de gente de California, el hermano de Rob Pierce. Me envió un request, yo acepté, conocí un montón, Michael Testing me envió, toda esa gente lo aceptó. Después vi en Puerto Rico, mi cuenta de LinkedIn, yo tenía 66 seguidores y subió a 1800 y pico. 66 seguidores me tomó como 3 años. Y en 2 meses, 1800 y pico seguidores de todas partes del mundo. Una loquera. ¿Qué pasa? Cuando pasó ese tiempo de Facebook, qué sé yo qué, yo no tenía mucho Bitcoin, yo lo que tenía era $150. Mi primera transacción todavía yo la tengo ahí y no me tocaba eso. Pero yo seguía acumulando. Y toda mi compañía puse que aceptaran Bitcoin, todos mis chefes que trabajan conmigo aceptaron Bitcoin. Y los que no querían aceptarlo, porque no creían en eso, acéptalo, toma mi código, mi QR code, y cuando lo acepto, yo veo la cantidad que te lo pago en dólares. Pero luego era un fee, 3%, porque fue una tarjeta de crédito, para yo ganar. Y seguía acumulando Bitcoin, yo cogía Ethereum, Litecoin y Bitcoin. Logré acumular 25 Litecoin, 10 Ethereum, y por ahí para abajo Bitcoin, por ahí para abajo, eso no puedo decir. Entonces, pues, cuando empezó la revolución mía por internet, me llamaron de Japón para entrevistarme la Japan News. Me llamaron de Milán, Italia, una cadena de televisión que se llama Rai News 24, que transmite en italiano, la revista Vanity Fair, una revista de esas, salí en esa revista. Me llamaron de Canal 4 en Inglaterra, salió un documental en Inglaterra, me llamaron de Australia, de ABC News, salió un documental de ABC, un montón de Merkler, Medium, Steamit, que son unas revistas que hablan de muchas de Bitcoin y eso, de inversiones. Y yo, bueno, todo el que venga a entrevistarme, yo le digo que sí, porque eso va a poner mi marca, mi nombre, en la esfera mundial, y eso va a hacer que tenga mi negocio más clientes. Y eso también creo que todos los desarrolladores de blockchain que venían a las conferencias pues me llamaban porque querían conocerme y seguía siendo cliente y guardando Bitcoin. Y logré tener una cantidad razonable, que lo último que hice en estos días fue que me compré un apartamento en Isla Verde, con vista al mar y el aeropuerto, un piso 18, bien bonito, con Bitcoin. El 2019 yo tenía un sueño de ir a Dubái, yo quería celebrar mis 50 años a todo lujo, yo siempre soñé eso, pero no sabía cómo hacerlo, porque tenía el capital para eso. Y la Dubái es costosa y la vida ya es cara y las cosas son caras. Y dije, bueno, ¿cómo lo haré? Con Bitcoin. Todas las cosas que han pasado buenas en mi vida últimamente, todo lo he hecho con Bitcoin. Y gracias a que tomé la decisión de aceptar Bitcoin en mi compañía, sin saber qué era eso, ni lo que me estaba metiendo, ni nada. A mí no me interesó saber cómo era, ni cómo funcionaba, ni que yo quise hacerlo ya. No lo pensé ni nada. Yo creo que ese tipo de decisiones fueron tanto arriesgadas de mi parte, pero viendo la tecnología que envolvía y lo que me podía llevar a tener al futuro, yo dije, yo voy a hacer esto como sea. Y seguí así, como en el mes de marzo, después de las entrevistas de la prensa y eso, yo vine más entrevistas todavía, había una conferencia que se llama Coin Agenda 2018, que fue en el Hotel La Concha, en el Condado. Pues yo quería ir, pero como yo no sabía nada de blockchain, ¿para qué yo voy a ir? Yo no entiendo nada de eso. Yo que quiero aceptar Bitcoin y más nada, a mí no me interesa la tecnología. A mí me interesa aceptar Bitcoin para ganar dinero. Y yo quería ir, y cuando llamé, las taquillas de 1000 ya se habían acabado, que era la más barata. Pero daban taquillas de $2.800 ya. Pues llamé al que me pagó con Bitcoin la primera vez. Déjame hablar con mi jefe, que él es amigo íntimo del CEO de la conferencia, de Michael Trump. Yo, José, yo no voy a poder ir para la conferencia, te voy a donar mi taquilla, $2,800. Yo no pagué nada, me la donaron y fui entrevistado en la conferencia, de muchas partes del mundo me vieron. Yo sigo así, me llamaron Criptotaxi, el taxista Puerto Rico, el Criptotaxi Puerto Rico. Y así mismo hice mi eslogan de mi compañía, en todos lados, Criptotaxi, todas mis carteras son @CriptotaxiPR. Si me quieres pagar con Bitcoin, @CriptotaxiPR, en todas las carteras, ahí la pagas. Y así sigo acumulando hasta que por ahí para abajo, todo lo que yo me gano en mi empresa, guardo un 60% en Bitcoin y el otro 40% para vivir mi vida. Guardo un 60, como tengo 51 años, yo quiero los 60 quemar todos los Bitcoins viajando por el mundo. Pues yo lo que estoy haciendo es el 60% de mi ingreso lo guardo en Bitcoin y vivo con el 40%. Y la verdad que esto cambió mi vida. Los que no lo han hecho, no lo entienden, no piensen entenderlo, háganlo. Porque ya la juega está inventada, no hay más nada que inventar. Si puedes aceptar, si tú eres contratista, hacer gabinete, no tienes chavo, va a poner un Bitcoin. Porque si esos gabinetes costaban $10,000 y cogiste $10,000 en Bitcoin, a lo mejor de aquí a 2 meses tienes $15,000. Entonces es mejor aceptar Bitcoin que dólares, porque el dólar baja el valor adquisitivo, pero el Bitcoin sube. Es verdad que a veces tiene caída de un volado, pero es más lo que sube que lo que baja. ¿Verdad? Que yo no me arrepiento y yo les recomiendo a ustedes, ¿verdad? Los que tienen negocio, que acepten otro medio de pago más, además de Visa, Mastercard, American Express, acepten Bitcoin, porque el que paga el fee es el que te paga, no eres tú el que recibe. Y eso es un buen negocio.
Gracias, hermano. Gracias. I asked him to come. I asked him to come to be a part of this. What we're doing is something.
Raul told him if he could give a nice donation to the bookstore, that would fix it up.
Bitcoin donation?
Te entiende perfectamente. The thing is that what we want to do is teach the common folk, the regular folk, people who don't know anything about technology or know a little bit about technology, but who are on the phone, precisely because we don't want them to stay left out, you know? This technology, the blockchain technology and ledger technology and all this currency inside this internet, it's going to take over. It's eventually going to be part of everyone's life. That being, whether you're going to buy a product and you can scan to where seed to store and all the steps that it took to get there, all that technology is going to be a part of it. That's the blockchain, that's the ledger technology. So it's going to be a part of everyone's life, and we want everyone to understand it. We don't want people to, as a matter of fact, I think we're just starting now. This whole thing is starting now. So understanding it now, it's just going to be better for the long run, because it's going to be a part of our lives. Even the younger generations already know. My nephew knows about this, and his brothers know about this. How come it took me so long to know or ask a question about it? So, yeah.
Solamente imagínense en esto. ¿Cuántos millones de personas hay en Estados Unidos o en el mundo entero? Todos van a querer tener un Bitcoin y no dan para todos. Si vamos a escoger solamente con los millonarios que hay en el mundo, sacando afuera a los pobres, la clase media, solamente los millonarios que hay en el mundo, si todos ellos compran Bitcoin, solamente van a poder tener 0.6 Bitcoin. Porque los 22 millones de Bitcoin no van a pasar. Pues, ¿qué pasa? Nosotros que tenemos la oportunidad hoy, que esto está empezando, está en 40 y pico mil. Yo compré en 1.300. 56 ahorita. Yo compré en 1.300. Son los que tengo. Pero, ahora está en 45. Y el que, cuando yo entré en 1.300, dije, wow, entré tarde porque eso costaba $1. Pero ahora, los que yo les hablo ahora, dicen, Dios, tan caro 45, tú entraste a 1.300. Sí, porque si tú entras ahora, después en 3 años más, va a estar en 100,000. Y tú vas a decir, lo que tú le digas, yo entré en 43,000. Dios, está caro, es 100,000 ahora.
Entrar tu cabeza en ese punto, porque dices, ok, lo voy a comprar, pero se pierde. Es que el Bitcoin va haciendo eso.
Baja y sube, pero es ascendente.
Siempre va subiendo.
Sí, a mí me ha pasado eso. Dices, ya tenía tanto y hoy bajó, que es hace como 3 días estaba arriba.
Más arriba.
Está bajando. Pues hubiera vendido.
Yo tengo Bitcoin, pero soy bien contento que baje. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque yo buy in the thing. Yo compro, bajó 29, ahí le metí un montón de miles. Y ahora está en 40 y otra vez.
Tienes que saber.
Yo estoy loco cuando baje otra vez. Uno hace análisis técnico del mercado y más o menos vas a saber de cuándo la tendencia.
Pero ¿sabes qué pasa? A mí me pasa eso, que te calientas y dices, lo voy a hago una foto. Y te esperas y otra.
Tienes que ser mi mentalidad.
Sacar un promedio.
Yo empecé en 2017, una parte que sin saber nada lo compré. Y después empecé verdaderamente a conocerlo en el 2018. Yo dije, mi meta es 10 años de holding. No me interesa vender. Cuando subió a 20.000 en el 2017, yo no vendí los 2 que tenía. Yo me quedé con ellos. Y se cayó, pero los tengo todavía. Y cuando subió en 65.000, que vino bajando a 61.000, vendí 4 bitcoins en $61.000. Que me costaron $6.200. Me gané $211.000. Con eso compré el apartamento cash. Lo rompí todo por dentro para remodelarlo lujoso por dentro, estilo Dubai, bien lindo. Y me sobra dinero todavía. O sea que eso son, tienes que determinar.
Tienes que saber cómo unos como push, tener algo como dejarlo ahí.
Sí.
El otro para vivir, con los que dejamos.
Correcto, pero yo creo que viene a pagar 30 años un banco una propiedad. Yo quería comprarlo en efectivo, darme ese lujo de hacerlo. Cuando el vendedor vino donde mí, tiene la preaprobación del banco porque este apartamento no está habitable. No te van a aprobar el banco. ¿Tiene la aprobación? No. Ahí es donde van. Yo dije que yo era el banco. Que yo no quiero un banco. Y yo soy el banco. Fíjese de eso, lo voy a comprar. Te lo compro lo que tú pides. No te voy a pedir rebaja ni nada. Tú pides 85, aquí está. Se me vendieron en una deuda. Yo pagué todas las deudas, me salieron 85 el negocio. Pero vale 230.000. Pero yo voy aquí para ahora para que valga más de 230.000. ¿Con qué? Con Bitcoin. 5 Bitcoin. Porque me quedan Bitcoin de lo que vendí, me queda dinero para remodelarlo. Y todavía me quedan Bitcoin porque yo quiero ahora, en los 60 años, que ya no haya COVID, espero, dar un viaje en un crucero de 6 meses que cuesta $25.000 por persona. Yo quería llevar a mi mamá, a mi hermana, la esposa de mi hermana, a mi esposa y la mamá de mi mamá, mi esposa y yo. Crucero de 6 meses. Y va por los 7 mares. Ahora mismo lo puedo hacer, ¿no? Se está el COVID, eso va a matar.
No vas a disfrutar igual.
No está preocupado. Pero yo fui a Dubái, celebré mi cumpleaños en el Burj Khalifa y el de mi esposa en el Hotel Atlantis. Tuve 20 días en Dubái a todo conmigo. Yo soy una persona común, corriente como cualquiera. Yo no soy de clase alta ni nada de eso, yo soy un taxista. Que tuve una decisión en la vida en un momento dado, una decisión de 1 minuto que cambió mi vida. Porque yo me dije, no, págame en efectivo, mira eso, yo no hacía nada de eso.
Estuviste en el momento adecuado.
Yo me metí en inversión sin saber nada. Y eso fue lo que marcó mucha gente.
Y además te tocaba compartir eso con los otros.
Y ahora, donde quiera que viajo, si se montó un avión conmigo, yo no la conozco. Le empiezo a hablar ahí, cuando termino, ya tiene la cartera hecha. Cuando llegaba a España, tiene la cartera hecha. Fui a Colombia hace 2 semanas y a mi ahijado le enseñé cómo se está el Bitcoin y cómo comprarlo y cómo venderlo. Bueno.
Entonces, preguntas, dudas, alguien tiene questions? Thank you for coming.
Hey, enjoy it.
Hopefully we're gonna do this again sometime. I know the crypto conversation is gonna happen again. Because we're gonna be sure it does in this spot, maybe in a couple of months. Because we're doing right now something called Crypto Monedas para Puerto, which is we're going to different places talking about crypto. Whether there be 5 people or 100 people. Just keep the conversation going and start up so people can start asking questions.
Por lo menos enseñarle una cartera, cómo conectar con el banco.
Just segregate, as long as you have right, so as long as you have the real use case coins, it's actually solving the problem.
200,000 this year.
Solving real use, there's like 12 of them.
But you know,
You
the
can
banks
definitely long
are very
term, but these other
powerful.
ones pump them nothing.
They control those
Make sure your
medias.
garden's segregated. so you know which ones
The media.
You don't think so?
Sure.
They control the media, these guys.
First one is calling the people for the owner account. If you buy Bitcoin, you're gonna go to your account. They are intimidating people right now. First one. they're intimidating clients. They say if you continue buying Bitcoin, we're not going to your account.
Did you do AMC?
They told me
No, my friend.
I
I made a good penny there.
That's great. I mean,
I buy with
I bought
money
at
wrong with paper
13,
to get it to
sold at 64.
he bought Bitcoin 1,300, sold it
Well,
at
they're
61.
intimidating.
Bought it.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Just by the taxi. So he went all the way through.
Cryptocurrency, but it's gonna be central bank. That's where they control it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, they
Yeah, he's from Boston.
And I'm like, yo,
That's the deal.
my boy always like,
Unless they,
right?
if they turn off the internet or electricity,
I was gonna buy it. I told my friends, I was like,
You know, in San Salvador, they use the heat from the
what are you getting?
you're not to mine heat. It's not very
He's a million.
So you can't, it's hard to always ask people that aren't in the state.
Yeah, it's ignorance, yeah. So my boy to this
They were looking out for you, but they had no idea. They just.
my boy Joe telling me, he's like, yo,
We can create our own internet to send the signal, basically.
Hey, look, but it was still early.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's really early.
Since we can set a network of
It's baby that's ready right now.
You see, it's working out the bugs. I've lost 400,000.
those things that we just
Because I bought into it 2015, trying to get back in it now. The exchange got hacked for $600
Elon
million.
Musk is really a
Crypto. I had Doge back in 2015. Well, that's why you just, you know what they are, up and down, you know. But what I'll do, I'll go back and get to the next one coming out, and let it pop. Yeah. Look, and it's just a lesson. Look, because if you don't, you experienced it, which is fun. You just didn't get the full ride, but that's okay, because you'll get scared too. But that you were in it and talking about it, thinking about it, I wouldn't beat yourself up, but you're still going through the motion. You just didn't, it's hard to, you know.
I saw Doge as like there's a chance because it's really happening about it. More people are accepting it.
Well, it's like a bridge into crypto.
Because they said the same thing about it's not gonna go nowhere. It'll end on. We're right across the street of the Cannabis shop.
You said big one?
No, but I will from you.
No, you should I'm saying, accept the different cryptos, just so you keep like your shop as a way to capture.
Right, I'll do that.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. It's just like Visa, MasterCard, cash, or crypto. Because it might be here's $100 and here's $500 in crypto. Right?
You never know. Like my friend was he didn't even know what the fuck he was doing.
Set up a wall and receive it. That's all I wanted. They're looking for ways to get a spin.
I didn't get a tattoo, man, but I got
Pleasure. James. Yeah. So you live up here? Okay, nice. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to start education too. It needs to be done on the local level. Really, like Dr. Shit's all the way up. So that way nobody's like scared of it. Because they understand the basic infrastructural components. But they hear all the craziness and the volatility. Do you know why Rincon is Rincon? Because it has volatile waves in it. Otherwise it's a flat land, right? It's just like cryptocurrency. I used to live in Hawaii when I first found out about Bitcoin. But the legacy financial system's like a limb that you stand up and have across very little money. But the reason why people live in Rincon, they want that action. That's why I'm telling you, the ocean. It's very dangerous, but if you're in the right position, you can ride. You have to. Sorry, but you're supposed to. That's what Bob.
Las conversaciones son eternas, el tipo está
You're supposed to do that to make the network grow. This is the guy who bought the 2 Bitcoins for $10,000. He had to do that as a sacrificial lamb to evolve the network. So everything you've done is not in vain. You just go back and recycle it. Because once it dips again, just be prepared to really push in.
This guy got the
the cannabis is the drug, Carribean Recipes, the government, agencies to persecute certain communities. Black, Latino, hippie communities, all these communities are persecuted for years because of the legalizing of the war against drugs.
Ahí viví en una casa, se cayó un avión por ahí. Yo estaba.
Fue cuando mataron al que era de lo bajaron. Eso fue
una avioneta. Yo estaba ahí trabajando en la embajada.
Y lo bajaron.
Viví en Polanco como no. Yo estaba cuando cayó una avioneta. Yo estaba ahí trabajando en la embajada de Estados Unidos.
Pero algo, ¿sabes qué? Porque el tipo se estaba saliendo del país. Entonces iba a hacer alguna declaración.
Esas son las
Pero de Estados Unidos pagaron, yo no pagué nada. Yo no pagué ni la avión ni la estadía.
Cuando estoy tomado, es que no sale en México. Tanto las lomas. Esas son.
Sí, otra cosa.
Ya no tenían 3 pisos. Tenían un piso para abajo y 2 para arriba. 12 cuartos de casa.
Thank you. Cuídense mucho. Hasta la próxima. Gracias.